Alright, so we got more 1090 spoilers here. It's pretty much like a full summary of the chapter, I guess. But before we get into it, let me just quickly go over the first set of spoilers that we got. So the title of the chapter is Admiral Kizeru, and we continue in the events of Egghead, where we see that Kizeru has already arrived on the island where the crew is, by using the Yatano Kagami technique. The Gorosei Saturn talks to Luffy through the Denden Mushi, and Luffy tells him that he will become the king of the pirates, and Morgans is eavesdropping on them. Robin is with the Straw Hat crew. The Seraphim are enclosed in gigantic bubbles. S-Snake has fallen in love with Luffy, and that's why he cancelled Frankie's petrification. Kizeru arrives at Egghead Island, and Sentomaru blocks one of Kizeru's lightsabers. The crew thinks of escaping to Elbaf Island with Vegapunk machines. York put a machine on the island so no one can escape. At the end of the chapter, Luffy notices something through his observation haki, and says that a very powerful person has arrived. So coming into these new spoilers, it says that we see Lucci talking to himself when Kaku asked him, "What are you saying?" And then Lucci responds saying, "Nothing, I was talking to myself." And Lucci sent information to Kizeru about what happens inside the dome. And when Kizeru told Saturn that Lucci sent them information about what happened inside the dome, Saturn said that Lucci is very smart. Saturn asks Kizeru if he can use his light speed to get inside of the dome, and Kizeru said yes, but the man who protects the dome is his friend Sentomaru. And Kizeru told Saturn that if he attacks Sentomaru, Sentomaru will order all of the sea beasts, the Seraphim and the Pacifista, to destroy the ship. Alright, so we know that this eventually ends up with Kizeru entering the island, because, you know, in the previous spoilers it said that he arrives at Egghead and Sentomaru blocks one of Kizeru's lightsabers. So yeah, I guess he does get onto the island with the Yatano Kagami and clashes with Sentomaru, but it's not telling us if he does in fact send like the sea beasts and the Seraphim, since the Seraphim are contained at this point. You know, in the previous spoilers it said that the Seraphim were enclosed in gigantic bubbles because there was something that happened off panel to where the Straw Hats were able to overcome the Seraphim along with like everyone else there, and then they were just enclosed in bubbles. I suppose York being forced to do it, like being forced to comply with the Straw Hats, since she was like defeated at the end of the previous chapter. And also this means that Lucci isn't like a face now. I mean, yeah, he did have a temporary alliance, like a ceasefire with the Straw Hats, and we also saw him just standing there at the end of the previous chapter with them, showing that they were still cool. But he's not like fully turned. Like, he is still very much with the world government, because we see him talking to Kizeru here and then relaying that information to Saturn, and Saturn saying that Lucci is very smart means that like, hey, you know, he knows that he could easily be taken out here, because that's what we originally thought was going on, because the Seraphims were attacking CP0 as well. But it was more so just York's scheme. But they were disposable here, I suppose. But Lucci making himself useful along with the rest of CP0 is ensuring that they're essentially going to stay in their good graces and they don't have to be taken out. Saturn said that we need to protect 3 things: Punk's records, York, and the power plant that creates the Mother Flame. So Punk Records is essentially like the internet of the One Piece world at this point. Like, it contains all of the information that Vegapunk was able to accrue throughout his life for the most part. I mean, I guess it also contains information on the Void Century, which is essentially why they're killing him, but they could just remove that. But this is just such an incredible information resource that they need to keep it. Like, even the world government knows it's so valuable that they can't just like burn it the way that they burned Ohara. Like, they need to keep this for sure. Now, as for them keeping York, it's because they came to an agreement with York in the previous chapter, where York proved that, you know, she's not really interested in the Void Century the way that the original Vegapunk is, and that she can still be of use to them. So she let them know what was going on at Egghead with the Straw Hats and everything. And they also had a change of heart in themselves, because they decided that they were going to keep York alive to produce the Mother Flame for them. Because we saw that Emu had used the Mother Flame a couple chapters ago to destroy Lelousia. And I think that she actually used Uranus. Now, this isn't confirmed, but just in my opinion, I think that the world government is in possession of the ancient weapon Uranus. And it's like this ship that can fly, and it shoots down these lasers, which are capable of destroying islands. like what we saw with Lugia. And we also saw that it was able to leave a hole in the ocean. And then that hole, of course, was similar to the hole that we saw underneath Enies Lobby, meaning that whatever was originally at Enies Lobby was also probably destroyed by Uranus. And considering that the Gorosei wants to keep York around here, means that they also want to continue to use Uranus using the Mother Flame, which York is capable of producing through this power plant, which is what they're also trying to protect here. And I think that the Mother Flame is just the power source for Uranus. Shaka and Pythagoras died. While Edison and Atlas are alive, Seraphim damage is very minor. So yeah, confirming that Shaka and Pythagoras died, which we assumed that they did. York had taken them out. But it's also confirming that Edison and Atlas are alive. And I think this means that the Vegapunk survivors are very likely going to be going with the Straw Hats into Elbaf. Like, we have Lilith, Edison, and Atlas here. And they all seem like, they're worthy of surviving. You know what I mean? And I think they're going to represent Vegapunk going forward. I mean, we do still have the original Vegapunk, Stella, but I have a strong feeling that he's going to die before we leave. I mean, it would be cool if he doesn't, but if he does, we will at least have Lilith, Edison, and Atlas. And as for the Seraphim being damaged, it's saying that it's very minor. It's because the Seraphim are going to be a force going forward, and they're not all together here. And I wonder, like, if the Seraphim are going to stay with York, or if they're going to go with the Straw Hats after this arc. Because there are other Seraphims out there, of course, that could be later reunited with York. But I think it would be cooler that if York just has all of the Seraphim with her, and that's like her crew, because that's like the equivalent of a Yonko crew in power, aside from the Yonko itself, if that makes sense. Robin and Kaku are injured. Kaku from injury laying on his back, and Lucci told him to rest. Chopper treats Robin and she thanks Chopper. Lucci was staring at Stussy, and when she noticed it, she told him to stop. So that's hilarious. I guess Stussy isn't on the same page as Lucci here. Like, Lucci is still very much with the world government and giving them information, but I don't think Stussy is with them. I think she's like a full-blown, like, traitor at this point. Like, she's helping Vegapunk, and he realizes that, and he's going to take her out for being a traitor essentially at this point, I guess. Luffy talks to the Gorosei to negotiate. He tells them to leave with all of the ships if they want York to live. Then the Gorosei asks him about something, and Luffy answers them truthfully. Then Robin gets angry and hangs up. Robin scolds Luffy for giving out information so easily, and Robin says it's a negotiation, but you're acting stupid. And Luffy thinks it worked, but Usopp calls him a fool. So yeah, not getting insight into what Luffy gave away here, but I don't think it's like that substantial. I mean, we could speculate forever, but I think this is more of a device so Robin can speak out so the Gorosei can hear her, because in the additional spoilers that we're getting here, it says that when Luffy was talking to the Gorosei, Jupiter heard Robin's voice in the background. And I think that's supposed to be the main takeaway here. Like, the Gorosei realizing that Robin is with the Straw Hats, which they knew, but also Jupiter explicitly hearing it. Maybe it means that Jupiter, I don't know, remembers something about her. But they know about Robin, obviously. She's tied to Ohara, so they're very aware of her, especially since she's like the last person or one of the last people in the world that can read the poneglyphs. But I think it's more so going to come into them giving like a secret order to CP0 to take Robin, or maybe Saturn tries to take Robin or something. Robin is obviously very important, and there is a freaking Gorosei themselves there, so I think it is going to come back into play. But as I talked about in the previous spoiler video, this is also super important because Luffy is talking to the freaking Gorosei. Like, this is the first time that he's talking to them, and also professing that he's going to be the king of the pirates, like his iconic catchphrase thing that he does to the villains. So he's doing it on the grandest scale here. And I do also think that this gives hope that Luffy is going to fight Saturn, since it says in the previous spoilers that he is talking to Saturn here. I don't know if in the actual chapter it's going to be real that he's just talking to all of the Gorosei, but I think it's also Saturn hearing this for sure. Vivi and Wapol are behind Morgan's and listening to the call that took place between Luffy and the Gorosei. They all heard Luffy saying that he will become the king of the pirates. So yeah, Wapol somehow tapped into this call and he's hearing it too. Morgan's is there, so I guess this is going to go into the paper as well, since Morgan's is explicitly hearing this. Vegapunk said that they can escape by using Vega Force because it's already next to the Sunny. And Vegapunk is trying to break the password that was set by York. So yeah, York put a password on the island so no one can escape. And this is like obviously like a ticking clock, but also just a way to keep everyone there. This usually happens in these arcs. And Luffy, Bonnie, and Frankie and Punk 2 arrived to the ship, and Vega Force is next to it. So yeah, Vega Force is like Vegapunk's giant mech that can fly. So as it said, they're going to use that to try to escape with the Sunny. And I don't really think it's going to be that easy. I mean, maybe they'll eventually use that to leave, but considering what we found out in the previous spoilers about Luffy noticing someone with his observation hockey, a very powerful person entering the island, it was revealed that that is for sure going to be Kizeru. So I think Luffy, or at least Zoro, is going to have to fight Kizeru here. And it's going to lead to, like I said before, hopefully Luffy taking on Saturn. But let me know what you think about this in the comments. And if you like the video, guys, please give it a like and please subscribe if you haven't already. Have a great day, and I'll see you in the next one.